All right. Well, hello and welcome, everyone. We are so excited to be with all of you today for another exciting episode of Impact Aurora, inspiring unity, change, and service. And so today we are incredibly honored to have our class president of our best class ever, the longest class ever, Karen Lovett, join us for this program. Karen is, yeah, we are so excited. Thank you so much for being here, Karen. Karen is currently the Senior Director of Operations with Uchealth and has been on the front lines with all of her incredible Uchealth team and others battling and winning the COVID-19 pandemic. So it's an honor to have Karen, who is not only just a remarkable leader at Uchealth, but really across the community, join us today. And we're so excited to dive into Karen's experiences in leadership and how she's been really working with her team over the last year to navigate and lead with grace, really with one of the most challenging seasons we have all ever faced. And so I'm really honored and delighted. We have a little bit of a podcast party today. I've got my partners here joining me, Meredith Velasquez and Jill Ruiter, joining me and hosting this special program today. Meredith and Jill, thank you for being here.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I think Karen's become one of my favorite people in the last couple of years, so I'm very excited.
Thank you.
This will be great. It's like a co-host and a co-host and a co-host. I don't know what you call like a tri-co-host, but I like it. I like where we're headed.
Whatever works, team.
That's right.
Yeah.
And of course, Karen, it'll be fun to hear from you today.
So with that, so Karen, just to kind of kick it off, can you just provide us, I know we provided just a brief bio of your background, but can you just talk to us and talk to the audience a little bit just about who you are and maybe a little bit more about your background?
Sure. Thank you for that nice introduction. Those are really nice, kind words. And I feel honored to be here, to be truthful. And I don't love these kind of things, but I really feel honored. And this is really what we need to do to give back to our community. So a little bit about me. First and foremost, I am a mother. I have a daughter and she's 23 years old. She goes to college. I have a wonderful husband. We've been married for 25 years. And so we've got a great relationship. I've been a resident of Aurora since I was thinking back today, I want to say 1992. And I grew up in Littleton, but moved out to Aurora because I met my husband, and he lived and grew up in Aurora. So definitely Aurora is my home. It's my community. It's where I do my service. And so this all makes sense to me. Professionally, I'm an advanced practice nurse by trade in critical care. Have done nursing at Uchealth since 1995. It was my kind of first job out of college, and worked my way through leadership roles, and it's just provided me with a lot of opportunity. I've met such great role models and mentors and leaders throughout my time here at Uchealth. Currently, you did mention I'm the Senior Director of Operations. And I think a little bit about myself, I think to kind of set the stage will be important probably for some of the questions that you'll bring up about, unity and service and change. I do not oversee any, I have one nursing department. I oversee research for the organization. But in addition, I have a lot of support service areas which support the front line, support the patient. So I have environmental services, food and nutrition, parking, valet, respiratory therapy, patient transport. And then I also have a big dotted line with design and construction. So I do a lot of the construction projects on campus, which we go through a lot of facilities. Security services, central supply. I should probably wrote this all down. Central supply, IT, and clinical engineering. So my scope is pretty much the campus, right? It's 3 million square feet, and a lot of that falls under my purview, which I'm honored to do, and I love my job every single day. So I have the best job in the world, and I appreciate it more because of the people that I'm able to lead and serve. So I think probably throughout this interview, you'll hear more about, my passions and what I do as a leader.
Thank you so much. You're not busy at all.
No.
Yeah. Let's put more on your plate.
I think I should. Oh, wait, I did forget what I have food and nutrition. Did I say that? So
yes.
Food and nutrition services just came under me, and that's so exciting because I don't know culinary. And so I'm always looking for opportunities and new departments that could come under me that make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And food and nutrition is my newest one. So they're my new group.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you.
I remember when you were elected our class president.
Yeah.
When you were giving your speech, one of the things you said was, or when you were nominated, I don't think you'd been elected yet, but one of the things you said was, my assistant's going to kill me, just because you were taking on another thing. But it was so important to you, which I loved.
It's true. I do just take on a lot of things, but I only take on things that are passionate to me. And to that point, being nominated as the president and actually taking it, because some people, it is too much, and they're able to identify that and not take on additional responsibilities. But I thought that this was, true and dear to my heart, why I came with Leadership Aurora, why I wanted to be a part of it. And it really checked the boxes. But to your point, Jody has been instrumental in Leadership Aurora, as we all know. And it's true. It's just probably one more thing that I add to my plate that I love.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And it lasted maybe a little longer than what any of us anticipated. So that happened.
We're going to go on 2 years. And so the 1 year commitment is doubled. But you know what? I think if any group had to do this and had to go through this and continue on an extra year, it's our group. We've stayed committed, we've stayed focused, we've stayed strong for each other through all of what we've had to go through. And I think of all groups, we can handle it. And I think, things happen to people for a reason, and this happened to our group for a reason. And we're a true testament of really great leaders of Aurora, our class. So, class of 2020 is the best ever and the longest ever.
Mm-hmm. Yes and yes. Yeah. So maybe Karen, tell us a little bit about, how Leadership Aurora has affected you personally, professionally, how you were even introduced to it, why you decided to join this in 2019. Yeah.
So I was Keith Peterson. He sits on one of the boards, and you probably know him, Jill. Very active in Leadership Aurora, in the chamber, just in the community in general. That is really what he strives at, and he's amazing. He came to me and said, we have this program, Leadership Aurora, and we really want to make sure that Uchealth is represented. And I think that this would be a great opportunity for where you are at in your career. Would you be interested? And of course, we all want to find out more and understand more what it is. And once he explained, it's about serving and giving back to your community and actually learning about your community. And at the same time, meeting individuals who are leaders within the community. I was intrigued. And I have to tell you that personally, Jill, the reason why I decided to even apply for it is I felt like I've been a member and a citizen and a resident of Aurora for so very long that I really have never learned about my community. And that's unfortunate, right? You know what's within your own little bubble, within where you work and where you live. But I really didn't understand what all Aurora had to offer. And I think that that's unfortunate for being, a resident this long. So personally, it's really opened my eyes to all the amazing things, programs, non-for-profits. I work for a non-for-profit, but I didn't realize how much was out there, like what Meredith and Jill, like all that we do and the education. And so personally, it was for me to understand my community better, and to be part of my community and find ways that I could give back to my community. So that's awarded me many eye-opening opportunities. So professionally, I think the biggest part of why I went into this professionally was to be able to network with other leaders in Aurora. outside of my own organization and outside of healthcare, maybe in general, because when you're in healthcare, you're in healthcare. And you know your community of healthcare, but you don't know what's outside of it. And especially serving the underserved at university, I think it's important to actually understand what programs are out there to help our underserved population. And because of this professionally, two big opportunities have come out of this for me professionally. One of which, when we visited the city of Aurora on one of our community days, what was most enlightening is I wrote it down because I didn't know if we were going to talk about it, but there was Ricardo Gambetta, and he's the manager of Office of International and Immigrant Affairs. And he goes into the community, he helps immigrants come in, find jobs, find housing, find opportunity. And a lot of my areas are entry-level positions. And what we try and do is go out into the community and recruit within the community. And a lot of it is immigrants. And they want to stay locally because maybe they don't have a car, they need to be on the RTD line. So I was able to get my director of EVS in contact with Ricardo so that we could start to bring some of those people who are looking for jobs into our organization. Had I not been and did this professionally, that opportunity wouldn't have been there. So I think personally and professionally, this has checked all the boxes for me and more. I mean, there's so much more I still have to learn and what I want to do. But I've grown over this last year and a half and understand a little bit more of what we have to offer. And it's amazing.
Yeah, that's really neat. I think,
oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think sometimes, you know that there's going to be good on the other side when you enter a program like this, but you don't exactly know what it's going to be. You couldn't articulate it ahead of time. You just know that you're putting yourself in a position to be better aligned with the community, with the network opportunities, and you just kind of wait for some combustion, if you will, to happen. And when it happens, you know it. And you execute on it. And so just even being aware, just to put yourself in that position, to put your organization in that position, I think is really a testament to the work of Leadership Aurora and how it builds this like intricate network that class by class, hopefully the community is better and better off for it.
Yeah. And to that point, I don't think you know what you don't know when you go into this, right? It's kind of this unknown, and you know why you personally want to go into it and professionally, and it is kind of that aha moment of it all makes sense. Like, I understand now why we do this, why Leaders of Aurora come, why it's so important, and also we're all going to pay it forward. Hopefully, find that next person who we want to recruit, who we think is a great leader, and promote the program and continue this cycle on. Truthfully, is what I hope to do, and pay it forward to somebody else within my organization.
Yeah.
I do think we were really lucky in that fact, something you said earlier, Jill, just kind of like looking back, you don't know what it is that's going to be so good, but when it happens, I feel like for me, looking back at the last 2 years, it was just, while it was an unfortunate time to be involved in Leadership Aurora, it was also a really good time because in the beginning, Aurora, you've just seen so much growth and so much change over the last few years that I feel like we kind of came to this point. So we got to see that point. And then, because of the pandemic and everything else happening, we also got to see other aspects of things happening too. So while it was very long or is very long, it's just like you get a really good picture of how people work together or don't work together, what the community is doing or what they're not doing, where we're lacking, just things like that. I thought that was really interesting to see in some things you mentioned.
And how we learn from it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Karen, just kind of going off of that, are there any like specific over the last 2 years of our class that maybe stand out to you, or just favorite moments that kind of really resonate with you, maybe both personally and professionally?
I always go back to, it's crazy, right? Like we've been together for a really long time, but I always go back to September 2019 in Breckenridge, Colorado. For some reason, like that's like the highlight for me. And I think, why is it a highlight? Because there was 40 plus people who didn't know each other. Well, some people knew each other from community work or working together, but we didn't know each other, right? And so we all came together with this notion of, we don't know what we're doing. We're all here. We get a booklet and like, what are we doing? It was so exciting just to learn about each other, see people just like immediately bond, create long, life-lasting friendships, relationships. And so, for me, that was my favorite moment. Like, I think just that weekend of watching us all like go out to dinner and go and have drinks or, whatever we did. It's simple, go for a hike, stand outside, just sit and talk. That was kind of just pivotal to me, was just, this is where it all started. We had a lot of great memories. There was a lot of great community days, a lot of volleyball and just going and doing things as a group. But I think the highlight to me that I'll never forget is just that day. And I was scared to death, right? Not knowing anybody in a room with 4 people who I'd never met before in my life, right? But we built relationships. And I think just from that point, looking back to where we're at today, I don't know, it just resonated as a really strong group. I mean, we started out strong and we're going to end strong.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so that's personally and professionally, right? I mean, and I went in and came out class president. Like that is, to me, I felt honored. I still feel honored. And I feel, I still owe it to our class to get us through this, through the pandemic and everything else. Like we still make it to the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We will.
Yeah. I think we were really lucky to have you as our class president now. And like I said, I've grown very fond of you over the past couple years. And I know you mentioned earlier that you only take on things that you're really passionate about. And I love that about you, because you can see that passion in kind of everything that you do. Even like, the 30-minute meetings we have right now going, you can just see that you're passionate about it and you want to help and lead. And, I'm just curious, you've had a career in healthcare. Obviously you're drawn to it for some reason and you're passionate about it. Can you tell us why? What is it about healthcare that you've been really drawn to this field for, and why you started here? Yeah.
So I said my career started in 1995 as a nurse. And interesting enough, I started at a local hospital in Aurora. I've always been in Aurora, and they were bought out by a for-profit company. And I remember, and I was young, right? I was like 24 years old, didn't understand profit, nonprofit, brand new to my career. I took this position because I was an intern there and they knew me and they hired me, right? And so when they became a for-profit, I actually understood, because when they were took over, they were non-for-profit, took over by a for-profit company. I then realized when big machines got put in our unit where we had to charge patients for a comb and a basin and a cup, I started thinking, like, is this really what healthcare is about, right? Like, is it really about making money and sitting there and charging? Yes, we have to make money. Don't get me wrong. But I didn't feel like that didn't fit my integrity or my mission and vision. And that's kind of when I started to learn about mission, vision, values. They teach you that stuff in school, but you never really understand it till you have to live it, right? And so one of my girlfriends left that organization because they were bought out, and said, hey, there's this great hospital. It's non-for-profit. Like, they're amazing. All the stuff that they do, you should come on over. And so I came to Uchealth. I started here in 1996, and I realized what non-for-profit meant for me, right? And what the mission, vision, and value means for us. And for me, it's from healthcare to health, right? It's from how do we give back to our community, patients first, and always thinking with the patient first. And so I came to healthcare because I wanted to serve, right? I wanted to take care of people who needed care. And I wanted to take care of people regardless of their income status. It doesn't matter, right? We all need care. We all get sick. We're all human, right? And we all deserve some sort of health care. And so I think I'm just, what I've learned through Uchealth is it is about our community, right? Our community is around us, and how do we serve that community? And there's a lot of underserved. And realizing that it doesn't matter what your insurance status is when you come in my door, right? We're going to provide you care. And so I think it's just my passion, who I've been, Meredith, for all my life. Like I was always that one going for the underdog, right? Like that was me, rooting for the underdog and always wanting to do my best. And I kind of fell into nursing, believe it or not. It wasn't like something I said, I'm going to be a nurse, and like that's what I thought forever. Like I fell into it. It's weird. But I would never change it. It's very weird in my position now that I don't oversee nursing, but I support nursing. And regardless of the people who I lead, I always tell them we all contribute to the care of the patient, right? Regardless if you take somebody's car and valet it, right? That's a patient experience. It doesn't matter. Like that's their first experience in this hospital. So I think because I'm a nurse, and because I have that vision of what I want it to be and what I live for, I think that's why it's so important to me. Like it makes me teary, because I just am really proud of what healthcare has done, where I work. I'm not promoting, it's just about who I am, Meredith. And I don't know, I can't see myself ever doing anything different. Like, I can't imagine like working outside of healthcare, although maybe one day I will, who knows, but it's just who I am.
I think it's really admirable. Yeah, it's admirable that you always identify as a nurse, even though that's not what you're running all these systems, but you still identify with that piece because, it's part of who you are and how much you care. And that shows.
Yeah, I try, there's, and I do identify myself as a nurse. My daughter says, well, you don't take care of patients. Like you're not a nurse, but I am a nurse, right? Like I just do nursing in different ways. That's to your point. I may not be at the bedside nursing, but I do nursing in different ways, and I do patient care in different ways.
Yeah, it's one of those careers I think that you do, that you will always identify with, no matter what you do. I can relate to that.
Like I'm a mother, a wife, and a nurse, right? That's like who I am. Those are the three things you use to describe me.
Yeah. All good things.
Yeah. Karen, you were talking about kind of being led with mission and vision and values. And so, what do you see for your team? You're still in COVID. At some point, hopefully we move out of COVID. I don't know if we call that recovery. I don't know what official terms are, but how do you think about, and two, you have such a diverse team, you have everything from valet to food service, like those couldn't be more similar, but also couldn't be more different. And so how do you go about that in your day?
What's interesting is probably another thing that you didn't know about me, but I did sit as the incident commander, co-incident commander in the command center with our pandemic, right? We sat in a command center to run the hospital so that we could still keep running, taking patients, but caring for this huge onset of COVID patients who needed our care. And, you still have to keep on going in your kind of normal job. And then you've got your COVID job, right? And what was amazing that I saw at my team is that we all just stepped up to the plate, regardless, right? People worked tirelessly. They volunteered. They worked in areas there was areas that we didn't see patients, and you had to like do something different. And people willingly, because they didn't have that job, we didn't have valet, right? Because what were we valeting? Nothing. You know, the hospital was essentially shut down to visitors. So my valet team would volunteer for other things, transporting patients or helping clean, right? So it was never an instance of I can't do it. It was an instance of I can do it, right? Good. And we're slowly, as we come out of it, Joe, like it's weird, like it's having to get back to this, like what we call normal. I don't know that we can ever call it normal. I don't know if anybody what that is. But how do we get back to our day-to-day operations of getting back into what we did pre-COVID? And nothing looks the same, to be quite honest. The way we do things, and I think what was brilliant is that we did a lot of things that we probably should have done before, but we didn't have the guts to do it. We didn't have the time to do it. And we didn't have probably the people to do it. So we put things into place that actually we want to keep, you know, because they really worked. And even like Teams and Zoom, you know, and people working from home, not ideal, but some people it really works for them. And so, you know, trying to get people back into this swing of things is challenging. It's challenging to bring your workforce back and to get back into the day-to-day operations. But I think it's just being patient, right? Because people have went through this experience in different stages. They've taken it differently. Some people have embraced working from home. Some people hated it. But they did it because they had to. So I'm sorry. So I think it's just trying to remember why we're all here, and that it's okay to come back in your own, you know, figure it out in your own time. But I think as a leader, it's being open. It's having those conversations with people and allowing them to express how they feel, right? Like this was really challenging. I have frontline staff respiratory therapists who lived at that front bedside for 10 months, right? So to be able to be empathetic and sympathetic to things that they've seen, we've really been challenged with how do we take care of mental health? How do we take care of people's mental health from what they've seen at the bedside, right? For most of us in our career, we've never seen, in my 20 plus years of being a nurse, I've never seen anything like this. And I hope I never have to see anything like this again, to be quite honest. But it's really how, not just the frontline staff or the people who are struggling with what we've seen, right? And so how do we put programs into place? We've had to do a lot of programs for people's mental health, counseling, behavioral health services, EIP. And I think really remembering that there's, you know, people they're internalizing it, they're handling it differently. And as we come out of it, they're still living it, right? There's still feelings. And so Jill, to your question, I think a lot of it is just that support, right? Some people are going to do it differently and they're struggling, and you have to support the people that are struggling. You still have to embrace the people who are here every day. It's definitely a balancing act, but I think we've really identified that, you know, our mental well-being, our personal well-being is extremely important, that we've been challenged this last year. We have to recognize that. So, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as a leader, it's so important, you know, what you were talking about as far as like just patience, you know, so patience with staff, patience with processes, patience with ourselves, you know, and I think also this pandemic has brought out a sense of a humanistic element. You know, sometimes we see I see people in their work role and I just don't see the rest of their life. And this year it looked very different. And so you begin to realize that people have a lot of, you know, just a lot of priorities and a lot of things on their plate. And then to have added stresses of the trauma of what's seen at the bedside, or the mental health because of isolation, or, you know, in a lot of different instances, no one's really exempt from anything.
No.
So
you said it brilliantly, that it's not just frontline workers, right? There's people who've been at home, they're isolated from their families, from just the normal everyday that we feel of like our coworkers, like coming in and saying good morning, right? It's different when you have that person, that in-person interaction versus this screen, right?
Yeah.
So it takes all kinds. And yes, I think patience is going to be virtue probably in every one of your workplaces. I bet you're experiencing the same thing as people are starting to come back into their work, and how does it look? How does it feel? And it's going to feel different for a bit.
Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, really
I think one of the questions that we originally had, or we do have, in our podcast is what qualities you look for in leadership. And I think you obviously addressed some of those. I'm curious to know, like, what would you have said prior to COVID? And what would you say now are things that you would look for in a leader?
Gosh, that's a really good question.
Mm-hmm. That is a good question, Meredith.
I mean,
I'm like, how would I answer that? I don't know.
I know, you have to sometimes think about that. Boy. Yeah. I think well, okay. I guess there's one thing that that is very different that I look for in my leaders right now. And it's just the act of kindness. Mm-hmm. And I know that sounds so simple, and it's, it's what we do every day. But when people are stressed, when people are tired, when people are alone, or whatever is going on, human nature sometimes is to take it out on the next individual and maybe not be so kind, right? But as leaders, I always tell my team is we role model the behavior that we expect from others, right? That's what leaders are. And we're informal leaders, we're formal leaders, however we are, we role model the behavior that we want to see with people who follow. Yeah. And I think the act of kindness is so important to me. It was important before. Don't get me wrong, but I think now more than before, I mean, it's hard for me to have to tell people, remember, we need to be kind. Mm-hmm. Because it's easy to fly off the hook or be frustrated or whatever it is. And, sometimes we just have to understand where people are at and be kind. And so I looked for that before, but I really look for that in my leaders right now is we have to be kind and we have to treat each other with respect. And I am a leader where it doesn't matter your title, right? Like high, low, sideways, it never should matter your title. You treat every single person the way you want to be treated. And so that is, you had a really good question. So I think kindness, the act of kindness is extremely important to me right now. Just because of what our society is going through. It's not just here in my four walls. You see it when you go out, right? You see people maybe not treating others so nicely. We don't understand their circumstances, so I think you just take the time to be kind back.
Absolutely.
Good
and just
question.
how a simple act of kindness, literally in kind of the time in which we are in now, can literally be saving lives. Yeah. Just a simple smile at someone, or Karen, to your point, just showing someone the best experience, pulling up to a valet or giving them a plate of food is just, it could literally be saving lives right now in the time in which because we're all a part of this season that we're all going through in different capacities, and we're all experiencing things differently. So with that, I think one of the things that we want to really extend, and I know it doesn't do it justice coming just by words and being here on screen, but we truly appreciate everything that you do and really want to extend everything that your teams, from food service to valet to the respiratory therapists, we want to extend our sincere appreciation for everything that they are doing on the front lines in one of the most challenging times that any one of us has faced in our lifetime. And so just know that we see the impact that your team is having at Uchealth, and how it's not only impacting Aurora, but quite frankly, Colorado and around the country and around the globe. I mean, it's pretty remarkable. And so we see that, and we just know that we want to extend that sincere appreciation.
Thank you. That means a lot.
And so this is really just an opportunity, because I know that was something that as a class, as a Leadership Aurora class, we had Health Day as part of our experience to kind of learn a little bit more about kind of the healthcare system right here in Aurora.
Yeah.
Just kind of an opportunity for you to plug Uchealth and some of the wonderful programs. Are there certain things that maybe the campus or the system does that maybe a lot of people don't necessarily know about, or could be unique or groundbreaking in some of the research and just the service and care that it's providing is
right.
World changing.
It is world changing, right? I oversee the research department, and part of our research was the Moderna and Pfizer trials. How amazing is that, right? How amazing is that to be part of that? People were actually, and I can't even tell you how many people volunteered to be part of the trial, right? And to know that we were awarded that opportunity here, and I think, we're known for research, but that's a pretty big deal. And I was proud, and Dr. Campbell, Thomas Campbell, who's the medical director, was the one who was the PI on these studies, and he was amazing. And talk about pivoting, right? Because you have to, that department was closed, and because everything non-essential, right, was shut down, but that was brought right back up. Those nurses and everybody who supports all the research came right back. We did a ton of research. So I think that was groundbreaking for us, and I was pretty amazed at how quickly we did that and how fast we got participants. And we tried to outreach to our community, but for diversity as well. Because you want to make sure that you have a diverse population that's actually trialing this vaccine, because it's important. And so that was important to our research and how we advertise to the community and how we put the information out there asking for research participants, right? So we were strategic in that. I think as a system, one thing that's really important to anybody who comes to us is that we pride ourselves on that the experience should be the same wherever you go if it has Uchealth. And we as leaders, each in the organizations, really try hard to make sure that we're standardized, as though we all have our own niches of like transplant or stroke or trauma, But the experience for the patient should look the same. Regardless if it's South, North, Metro, we really pride ourselves in our system CEO. That's, she wants to make sure that if Jordan, you go in up north and you had an experience, that experience should feel the same, that you were given the same care, the same opportunities, and the same standard of care. So I do think that that's important for our community to know, that that's important to us as an organization. One thing I would love to plug, for something that we did for our staff for the system through COVID, because many a days our staff couldn't find the time to eat. They couldn't leave the department because they were so busy, they couldn't go get food. People couldn't go to the stores, right? Like there was some challenges. We as a system, this second round of the COVID, we did feed the frontline, and we fed every person who came to work every day or night, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, for 2.5 months. We fed millions of meals, like 2+ million of meals, and that was across the system. And that's not something that Uchealth like we're known for, right? But that's something I'm proud of, because our staff was able to have food delivered to them, and not only did we feed the front line, but to keep our community restaurants and locally owned restaurants, we bought food from them. And then we brought that food in so that we were then also supporting our community because they were struggling. And so we took the opportunity to make sure that we took care of our own staff, but we were at the same time taking care of our community. And that's not stuff that you hear on the news, and it's not anything you should hear, but that's, how important it was for us, because, the community still needs to survive, right? And our local businesses who didn't have the opportunity to stay open. So I think that's just a testament to who we are and how important it is for us to be involved in our community. And that's what's important to us, is our community.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to take care of yourself so you can take care of others. And that's essentially what Uchealth is doing, right? You're helping take care of those who are taking care of everyone else. And it may seem really basic. It's food, but the logistics of how to go to the grocery store, how to prepare meals, how to use shared space in a refrigerator. I mean, that just is beyond when you're trying to help other people. So That's incredible, Karen. You should be proud of that.
And I'm proud of my food and nutrition team. Like, they did it on a dime. It was the decision to do it, and you made it happen. And Jill, you know what it is about self-care. I think, what we tried to promote through all of this, and I'm sure every one of your organizations would say the same, is how did we make sure that people were taking care of self? Because to your point, if I don't take care of myself, I'm no good to take care of somebody else. Regardless of what the situation is, take care of your family, your loved ones, your dog, whatever it is, you have to be healthy. And I do think through all of this, we forget about taking care of ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it feels selfish at times,
right?
But really there's something about, it's really not selfish when you think about the abilities that you can leverage and steward for other people when you've made sure that you're okay.
That your cup is full, right? Yeah. We got to fill our own cups sometimes. And it is important.
Yeah. That's really
good. Well, on that note, on a personal note, what do you do to fill your cup, Karen?
Yeah.
Well, in time of pandemic, I love to exercise. You all know I had my back surgery, and what's interesting, right in March, March 22nd, I think was the day we all kind of shut down. Mm-hmm. I got released the week before to start to have activity again. And I love exercise and I love being active. And I'd been 3 months with no activity. And I went to the gym one day and then everything got shut down. So I built my own little home gym, and, it's just it's my time, right? Yeah. I take the time. It's quiet time. I wake up super early in the morning. I meditate. I do yoga. I do things that are mindful, right? That set my day, because it helps set the tone for my crazy, chaotic day, right? Let's be real. We all live in a crazy time. So it's important. That fills my cup. That makes me feel good. It makes me feel refreshed. It makes me feel healthy. And that I can lead people in the right direction of also feeling healthy and taking care of self. So, that right now, just because of the limitations, is really what feels good to me is kind of that, that's self-preservation of taking care of myself with exercise. I love it. I got my own little home gym, my own little weights, Awesome. So it's been kind of fun. I was the one trying to buy weights. I don't know if you guys were trying to do
My husband was doing the same thing.
Right? Paying an enormous amount of money to try and get
he was driving for hours trying to get weights.
And people were gouging us because we wanted weights. But I was one of those crazy people trying to get weights, but it was worth it, right? To your husband, it was probably really worth it to spend that money, but yeah. Weird.
That's awesome.
So Karen, just to kind of follow up on that, outside of, kind of exercising and kind of filling your cup up that way, at the start of your day and everything, outside of maybe your tremendous service to healthcare, are there other just things in the community or groups or organizations that you find yourself just kind of getting involved in to give back?
Yeah. There's actually a couple of things, and it's actually been because I would say Leadership Aurora was the reason why I actually started to get more involved. Because I don't think that I knew what I wanted to be involved in. And part of it is going to find that passion, right? Like what does fill your cup as a servant leader? And how do you fill your cup outside of where you work? And there is two things. One is healthcare related, but the other one is we have a food bank at a local church, and it's not my church, but it's a church up the street. And I remember I would drive by every Saturday morning when we could go to the gym, and I'd be going to the gym and I'd be like, why is there like so many cars over there? And so one day I decided, I'm just going to drive through this parking lot and see what it is. Well, lo and behold, this church has a huge food bank in it. And I would have never known, like it's not advertised. I had no idea. And so, I kind of just drove through and realized that it was there. And then once we started, like went to Village Exchange, right? And they had like that food bank where people could come in and they could get food. And I'm like, you know what? Like, this is what I should be doing. And I just went there. Like, I'm not a member. Crazy, but I went there and on a Saturday, and I talked to the lady who was running it that day. She was just kind of in charge of it. Her name was Carolyn, and I said, I'm just interested in volunteering. I'm not a member of this church, but I would love to give back to our community, because that really is, it's right by where I live. Yeah. And it's astounding to see how many cars are there every Saturday.
Yeah. That was before the pandemic?
Yes.
Yes. Now it's even more.
I know. And it's hard because you have to do the social distancing, right? Mm-hmm. So the way people have to get their food from food banks looks very different, but we all know we have to adapt. But I think I got out of Leadership Aurora what I came in to get, and that was to figure out how can I give back to my community. Mm-hmm. And I brought my daughter to do it. I brought my husband, and so I know from this will grow more. And it's just one simple act, but it's something important to me. And it may not be a lot, but for me, that's also what I got out of Leadership Aurora, because I wanted to go in to find, how do I give back? How do I pay it forward? And that's something that I feel like is right it's in my back door. It's my own community. It's my neighbors, right? Some of them are my neighbors. So, it just happened driving by, but that's been what I've been doing probably the last, Meredith, it was before the pandemic. So it's probably been the last year and 2 months, I would say.
If someone was looking for something to do in Aurora to give back, to inspire that unity and change and whatever, what would you say? Like, what would you suggest someone do? What's a good way to get involved in the community of Aurora?
Well, what I would first say is understand what your city has to offer. Mm-hmm. And what I learned was the city of Aurora and the chamber. Like, to be quite honest, you don't even have to go looking for non-for-profit, because that's all right there, right? And I didn't even know that. When I went to City of Aurora Day to see all the programs, all the departments, like, I had no idea that all of that even existed.
It's amazing.
And I think even just the simple act of going to the City of Aurora and saying, what programs do you offer? Like, what is out there is an amazing opportunity. And to look at your local chamber, which is active within the community and non-for-profits and for small businesses. So I think that that's a really good starting point. For me, Meredith, that's what helped me, because I had no idea, to be quite honest. I didn't understand what was all out there. And it started, that's kind of was my eye opener of all the programs and opportunities that are out there. I think it's a good starting point.
Yeah.
Yeah, like just from education and awareness, you don't have to recreate the wheel. It's there. Just jump in. And then to your point, Karen, then you can start aligning it with your passions and where you see the need and looking at your own local neighborhood. And it's just different layers, but really like the awareness and education part is right in front of you.
Yeah.
And it's odd that I had no idea, like even what my own city of Aurora had to offer, right? Like I live here. So I think, encouraging anybody who's watching this podcast to go to their city, to go to their chamber, see what is available within their own county, and not just about how to give back, but maybe things of services that you need for yourself, because you're at a time of need. There's a lot that counties have to offer that I had no idea. I had no idea. So, it may not be for people who want to give, but for people who maybe need to receive is a good starting point as well. So
absolutely,
that's what I learned, how to at least start.
Yeah. I really like that answer. And I feel like this podcast is just going to have a lot of head nodding on it. But
we're all like,
today I'm like, oh yeah, that's a great answer. Great answer. But,
well, it's probably like, it's been such a whirlwind of the last couple years. Would I've ever thought I would be here today and doing a podcast? Like, no, like, and look at my like classmates who are doing this. Like, you guys took this from the ground up, and I mean, look at just what we've all done and where we've come. And I think, everybody's going to do some head nodding because they've been there, done that. They've experienced probably a lot of the things we've talked about today.
Yeah.
And I hope to offer some insight. That's, again, it's how do we give back and back to our community?
Yeah. And just so you know, you definitely have, there's been times, like I said, through the past couple of years that I remember just small conversations that we had that I was like, that is really insightful. Like, I'm going to remember that she said that. So you are having that impact, and I appreciate it.
Yeah.
With me, I'm sure you're having it with a lot of people.
Oh, I hope so. That makes me like flutter. Like, that makes me happy because I want to inspire people. I want to be remembered as a leader who, when you said unity, I think that's important, right? Like, we're all one, we're all human, we all have something to give, and just be real, right? Like, if you're going to be a leader, be real. I pride myself in servant leadership, and that's I've said that even as a staff nurse. Like, when I learned about leadership, I was like, I coined myself as a servant leader, and that's what I try and hold true to. And I always want to make sure, I always hope that I can pay it forward in some way, and I can inspire somebody else to do something that maybe challenging them they wouldn't have done before. So I'm glad to hear that. Thank you, Meredith. You're so sweet. You're so sweet.
So we're going to be real, and we're going to be kind, and then we'll be real kind.
There we go.
Bingo.
We're getting really cheesy at the end here. Sorry.
There it is.
Be kind. That's all you have to do. And then, I don't know if you noticed, but I have my 6 foot social distancing poster that somebody framed for me to remember the last year. So I should probably hang that up too.
Yeah.
I love
It's going to be like one of those vintage posters 40 years from now.
I could sell it and make some money. Somebody's going to want to remember that.
Yeah.
Well, Karen, we always like to kind of finish these by just asking the question, if you had the chance just to treat yourself for a day, what might that look like? Meal, activity, people. I mean, really, it's like blue sky. So like, all no barriers to what you would think about this.
Mine is so simple though, but it's what I love. I love to be on the beach by the Caribbean, blue water, with like an umbrella and a good book and just have my family around me and just be peaceful, right? Just a moment to relax. And that's my favorite thing to do. Like, that's probably what I've missed most out of all of this, is not being able to go on vacation, right? Because that's like my thing that that always kind of grounds me, gets me back to what I need to be, come back to work, and I feel better. But that would be, if I could have that tomorrow, Joe.
Yeah, it sounds incredible.
Take me away.
I know. I wish I could just like teleport you there. Someday when they create that's invented, we'll make sure you're first on the list.
That's where I want
teleported.
I keep watching. When can I travel? Like, when can I go international? Because I'm ready. I'm ready for some water. I'm ready to get some more.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Absolutely. Well, it's very simple, but very specific. And I appreciate that, because I think you know yourself well to know where that hard reset happens and how it fills you up.
Yeah.
Yep. And did I mention a pina colada? Ooh. I wanted a pina colada with that.
Yep.
There we go. Yep. So an umbrella overhead and then a little umbrella in the drink.
I was going to drink.
Oh,
yes, that's what I need. And warm weather and sun.
Yeah. This minus 10 degrees that we've been experiencing.
Yeah.
And I have, I know you're finishing, but I have areas that some of my groups work outside, right? Like the Specimen Collection Center, who are collecting the COVID swabs. Those troopers stayed open through 1 degree weather. And because we still had patients in need, right? We still had people who still needed testing to get back to school or to work, or they were sick, my valets were still out there valeting, so the life goes on in Colorado at 0 degrees. It sure does.
Very true.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Meredith or Jill, do you have any other questions or anything else to add?
This was a great conversation. Thanks for joining us, Karen. Thanks for your insights. I think we all did glean a lot from it, like Meredith said, and I think others will too.
Thanks for making it so comfortable, you guys. I really appreciate that, and kind of makes you think, right? When you have to think about these hard questions. So, thanks, you guys.
Sorry I put you on the spot.
No,
but you always have great answers.
Well, you guys are great. Thanks, you guys.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
I can't wait to see this.
Yeah. So I think we'll go ahead and we'll just close it out, and we'll button it up so that way we are good to go. And so with that, Karen, we just want to thank you and appreciate you. And also just, again, we want to extend our sincere appreciation to all of your teams, really across all the departments that are working so tirelessly and relentlessly to just provide the best care to our community. So it's really an honor to have you. It's just been, words can't do it justice, but it's been an honor to have you as our leader for our class, our best class ever. Just want to reiterate that for all of our wonderful listeners and Leadership Aurora alumni tuning in for this. But, I hope all of you who are listening to this program really got some really tremendous insights that Karen was able to share with all of us today, and just hoping to inspire each and every one of us. I know it has with all of us that are talking to Karen today, but really being able to help steward that leadership to, one, be able to just carry that life-giving act of kindness and care just to those around us, to take care of ourselves, that can really just help usher unity and community in our own everyday lives. And so with that, we hope you all are staying healthy and safe out there. And we thank you so much for joining us today, and looking forward to catching the next discussion with Impact Aurora. So Karen, thank you very, very much. I want to send a thank you to my co-hosts, Meredith and Jill, as well, for being here.
Thanks, you guys. It's an honor leading all of you. So thank you.
All righty.
Bye.